So then the question becomes why? Why multiple pastors? What is the big deal? As I've told you before, when I when I pastored my first church full time, I went there to do evangelism. I went there to try and get that church growing. That's what they told me they wanted to do. And I had heard of this teaching of elders and all of this before, but I just didn't think it was that important. But over the course of the next 15 years, I have seen why it is so important and how you can actually have revival until you do it. So let's look and let's see what the wisdom of Christ is in having multiple pastors in every church. The first benefit is that it spreads the ministry around. There is such a tremendous amount of work to do as a single pastor in even a small church. There is so much prayer to be done, so much counseling to be done, so much teaching and preaching to be done, so much leadership and administration to be done, conflict issues, people calling you on the phone, funerals, hospital visits. It is a tremendous amount of work to be done. And Christ did not intend for one man to do all of that. He intends multiple pastors to spread that and to reduce discouragement and burnout. Let me show you a couple of statistics on this point. I took some church consulting training a few years back, and there are two numbers here on the screen, 1,200 and 50%. And I learned some frightening statistics in that course that directly address what we're talking about here of burnout. 1,200, what is this number? 1,200 is the number of pastors who leave the pastorate each month because of stress and burnout. 1,200. That's not every year. That's every single month. And if you think about in Baptist churches, most Baptist churches are small and most of them have part-time pastors. So not only is that pastor trying to carry the weight of that whole church, he's also trying to work. And he's also trying to take care of his family. So 1,200 leave every month because they're burned out. 50% of seminary graduates leave the pastorate within 5 years. So these men go into the seminary in order to get trained to be pastors of churches. And then they get out and they start pastoring these churches. And with 5 years, they're completely out of the ministry. And I told you before of all the complaining and all the backbiting and the upside down polity and the difficulty in the business meetings and the voting and all of that. But you lay on top of that all the work that you have to do, and you typically make virtually no money. And everybody wants to squeeze your money. Nobody wants to give you any more money. They want to keep their finger on your pay. No wonder they leave. You see, so this isn't designed for one man to do, and we see the failure of this design in the fact that these pastors are leaving the ministry. Another reason, another wisdom of Christ in this is that it increases the gifts that the people have access to. There are simply more gifts to go around. I've already hinted at this. I've already talked to you about the difference in the giftings of apostles and elders. So you need multiple elders to have all the gifts that you need to take care of a body. And one of the things I think that we lose in Baptist churches with a single pastor. And this is no criticism at all of any of our pastors, certainly of our pastor. But what happens is, I remember when I was pastoring full-time, and I was preaching 3 times a week. And so the people had to hear me 150 plus times a year. Now, I have certain skills, I have certain passions, I have certain emphases in my preaching. I have things that I like to talk about, I have things that I really am not that interested in talking about. So what happened with those people was, they were getting, over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years, they were just getting one perspective. And that's not really healthy for the congregation. It's not that I was teaching them anything that was wrong or was not out of the Bible, but I am only one guy with one gift and one set of skills and one perspective. So when we have multiple pastors, and we'll see here in a little while that they're all supposed to be able to teach and they're all supposed to be involved in the teaching ministry, then the people receive a much broader and deeper and richer ministry of the Word. And that is why Christ has established this. Number 3, it increases wisdom. It increases wisdom. You see, instead of one guy trying to figure out what to do in a certain situation, with his limited mind and experience, we have multiple men now with a bunch of different experiences and a bunch of different angles and a bunch of different views to make those leadership decisions even better. The Lord protects us from tyrants through multiple pastors. He reduces the chance that a single strong leader will take too much control of the church. So one of the responses that's happening in Baptist churches to the disastrous and destructive voting system is that some pastors are starting to wrestle control of the church, and they become virtually a tyrant. They control everything. And it's not safe or wise for one man to control everything. So when we have multiple pastors, those multiple pastors will be able to check each other if anybody is getting out of line in terms of a power standpoint. Number 5, it boosts the holiness of those pastors. Instead of a man being all alone under all that stress, dealing with his own temptations and his own weaknesses by himself, he's now among a group of men who love him, who are strong in the Lord, and who are helping him stay accountable and pure. And then finally, multiple pastors reduces the losses to the church when a single leader leaves. Think about what happens in a Baptist church when a pastor resigns, when he leaves to go to another ministry, when he gets out of the ministry, which we talked about already, or God forbid he gets sick or he dies. The church is leaderless. The church feels leaderless. They're sitting there adrift with no rudder. Oh, we just need to get a pastor. We just need to get a pastor. But the Lord never intended for His churches to be without pastors. So if one man moves on somewhere, we've got these other men that are already ministering, already in front of the people teaching, and the impact of one person leaving is much lower. So you can see here there is tremendous wisdom in Christ's design of multiple pastors in our churches, and we are suffering in all of these ways because we have not followed His design.